Algebra 1, Lesson 31, we are looking at rates, ratios, and proportions. So big idea is being able to find the unit rate of products to know which should I buy because it's a smaller price. So to talk about ratios, we should first give a definition. And a ratio is really just a division relationship to compare two numbers. And we have three ways to write our ratios. You could write them as a fraction, write them with a colon in between our two numbers, or with the word 2 in between the two numbers. So if we were looking at these aquariums, we could look at what is the ratio of black fish to red fish, and so we would say, okay, I need to put how many black fish I have first, and then how many red fish. So we would say in the first one, I have a relationship of 2 to 3, or I could show it as fraction of 2 over 3. And in the second one, we can say, all right, blackfish to redfish, I have 4 to 6 and 4 over 6, but we see that these are actually the same ratio. These are equivalent ratios. So we actually have the same ratio of blackfish to redfish in both aquariums. One just has a little bit more. This is a quick exercise that you can do to find some similar ratios, equivalent ratios. So you could do something like, well, 6 to 60 is the same as 1 to 10, and 6 to 8 is the same thing as 3 to 4, and it's the same thing as 9 to 12. Okay, so all of these are the same. You could do 10 to 12 and say, let's see, does that have anything in common? I believe it does. Yeah, 5 to 6. Okay, this one right here. You could do 1 to 5, it's the same as 3 to 15. And 10 to 4 goes to our 5 to 2. Okay, so we can match some equivalent ratios telling us that these are the same ratios, but we do want them in simplest form. So if we're talking about our unit rate, we could have a rate which is two different units of measure. So in this case, miles and minutes. And if we're talking about the Space Shuttle Endeavour, it climbed 71 miles in about 8.5 minutes. But we want to know how many miles it went in just 1 minute. That's a unit rate when we have just one of a certain unit. One of a certain unit is a unit rate. And in this case, we want our 1 minute. Well, how did we get from 71 miles in 8.5 minutes to 8.4 miles in a minute? We divided by 8.5. You can say, all right, I'm just going to divide these two numbers together, or you could say, I'm going to divide both the top and the bottom by 8.5. Either way is logically the same thing, and we get our 8.4 over 1 minute. So if we were to do this one, 18 degrees in 6 minutes, and find the unit rate, I would be saying, okay, in 1 minute, how many degrees did it change? So I'm going to divide 18 divided by 6 and see that we have 3 degrees in 1 minute. Okay. So what happens then if we take our unit rate for the Endeavour launch and we wanted to know in miles per hour? Well, this goes back to using a unit multiplier to be able to say, I'm going to multiply by 60 minutes in 1 hour so that I can get rid of the minutes and multiply 8.4 times 60 and figure out that that is how fast I go in miles per hour. And you can work out that math. Same thing with this one. If lightning strikes 100 times per second around the world, how many times does lightning strike per minute? Well, we would say the seconds is what I need to change, so I'm going to multiply it by 60 seconds over 1 minute. So I can get rid of my seconds. This is a unit multiplier, and so we can multiply it by it because really we're just multiplying by 1 over 1. We have the same thing. So we get 6,000 strikes or times in 1 minute. Okay? So that's still a unit rate, we just now have minutes as our 1 unit. Okay? 2 gallons in 1 second, how many gallons per minute? We're going to use that same 60 over 1 minute to get there. Now, what this leads up to is the fact that if we have ratios, we can use 2 of them to get proportional a proportion, okay, which really helps to be able to solve some problems. There are three ways to solve our proportions. One is to cross multiply and say A times D equals C times B. We can divide the top by the top or the bottom by the bottom, okay? So if we multiply or we divide A divided by C, we're going to have the same ratio from B to D. Okay, so you can look between the two ratios to figure out what you're missing, or you can look within the same ratio by dividing your actual ratio and figure out what is our unit for the other ratio. So each of these can be used in certain situations. Some might be easier than others. So if we have this situation and we're trading stickers, we'll just do a couple of these. Let's set up some proportions to figure out our conversions. And we say, okay, 3 dog stickers is the same as 5 cat stickers, which is the same as 6 elephant stickers. So if we traded 18 elephant stickers, how many dog stickers could we get? Well, we see that we have this ratio of if we have 3 dog stickers, I'm going to get 6 elephant stickers. So I could say, well, how many dog stickers for elephants? We're going to make sure that we keep our ratio the same as far as dogs to elephants on our right side. And now there's a lot of ways to do this. We can see that 3/6 is the same as 1/2, and we know if we want an equal proportion, okay, then we would need 9 over 18 to have it be the same. So we would say x equals 9. You could have also cross multiplied, or you could have seen that, all right, 3 times 2 is 6, so something times 2 is 18, which would need to be 9. Another one in here, let's say this third one, if you had enough money for 20 cat stickers, how many elephant stickers could you afford to buy? Well, our cat to elephant is 5 to 6, so if we have 20 cat stickers, we want to know elephant stickers. So maybe in this case I cross multiply and I see, all right, 120 equals 5x. So we divide by 5 and we would see that x equals 24. Now we could have also seen that 5 times 4 is 20, so 6 times 4 is 24. Lots of ways to do that one. And lastly, let's do the last one on here. If you traded 42 elephant stickers for 38 cat stickers, did you get a good deal? Why or why not? Well, let's figure out how many cat stickers we would normally get if we had 42 elephant. So we're still using this 5 to 6 ratio, but we want to know how many cat stickers for 42 elephant. Now, we could say 6 times 7 is 42, so 5 times 7 would mean that x is 35. So if I actually got 38 cat stickers, that's a pretty good deal. Okay, I would be happy with that deal. Let's just do some really quick proportions. All right, 15 over 40 is x over 8. So I see that 40 divided by 5 is 8, so 15 divided by 5 is 3. Okay, so 15/40 is the same as 3/8. Let's try again. 12 over 24 is the same as 4 over something. Well, 12 over 24 is really just 1/2, so an equivalent fraction of that would be 4 over 8. Okay. Next one, a little bit more tricky because we have x minus 1, and in this case, you can figure it out in your head, but I would also encourage you to cross multiply and get 12 equals 6 times the quantity x minus 1. So we get 12 equals 6x minus 6. We add 6 to each side and get 18 equals 6x. So x equals 3. And we see if we put in 3, we would get 3 minus 1, which is 2 over 12, which is the same as 1/6. So it worked. We just have a couple more practice problems here. Okay, if there are 16 students in the class, 9 are girls, 7 are boys, what's the ratio of girls to boys? Well, we would say that's 9 to 7. And the ratio of boys to the class, well, we would have 7 boys to a total of 16 students. Now, if we had 128 students in the gym and we use the same ratios, how many girls would there be and how many boys? Well, we use this idea of, okay, for the boys, we have 7 over 16, 7 to the whole. So we would say, how many boys for 128 students total? And when we do this, we can cross multiply. All right, so we get, 16x equals, let's see, 128 times 7. So let me work this out really quick. So we have 896 equals 16x, and we divide by 16. We do 896 divided by 16, and let's see, that turns out to be, I don't want to bore you by doing the division on the board, 896 divided by 16, we would have 56 boys. X equals 56. Now there's a couple ways you could figure out how many girls. You could say, well, we have 9 over 16 equals x over 128. Or you could realize if there's 128 students total and 56 of them are boys, that means that there are 72 of them that are girls. All right. So if Mr. Cerny was driving to Kansas, he drove his truck for 450 miles for 8 hours. So I'm going to put down my rate, 450 miles in 8 hours. And I want to know how long it took him to drive 800 miles. So let's set up a proportion and say this needs to stay the same rate. So I should have 800 miles for a certain amount of hours, x hours. And I could cross multiply and figure this out. 6,400 equals 450x. We divide by 450 and I believe x comes out to be 14.2 repeating hours. Okay. Last couple of questions here. Which is better, buy 8 boxes for $4.96 or 5 boxes for $3.25? Well, we can set up a rate and figure out what is the unit rate for 1 box. So we would say $4.96 divided by 8 boxes. Well, how many is it for just 1 box? How much is it? And we would do $4.96 divided by 8. And we would say, okay, well, it looks like we get a 6 in there and have 16 left over. So it would be 62 cents for each box for the first one. Now, if we had $3.25 for 5 boxes, what would it be? Well, we need to take our $3.25 and divide it by 5. So we would get a 6, and we would have 2 left, and we would have 5. So it looks like this one is going to be 65 cents for 1 box. Well, in that case then, our 62 cents per box is the better buy, so the 8 boxes for $4.96 is going to be the better buy. And last question. A map shows a 5.5-inch distance between Orange City and Newton and 3.75-inch distance from Newton to Westville. The scale on the map is 1 inch to 100 miles, so the actual distance is what? From Orange City to Westville, all the way across. Well, the total distance on the map is 5.5 plus 3.75, which means that we get a 9.25 distance in inches. Well, if we say we have 1 inch to 100 miles, we could set up a proportion and say 1 inch to 100 miles is the same as 9.25 inches to a certain amount of miles. Well, we could put a variable and cross multiply, or we could just see that I need to multiply by 100. So it would be 925 miles. All right. Well, I hope this is helpful for your homework and for studying.